This video will show you how to replace the electronic cooling fan on a Chrysler Town Country. This will be located along the front of your engine compartment. Let's get into it. Okay friend, let's get started on our job. The first thing we're going to do is locate our coolant reservoir bottle. Now as far as this is concerned, it does have a reservoir hose which leads all the way across the top of the fan over towards our radiator cap. We're going to dislodge this hose. As far as this is concerned, typically you should be able to take hold of it, we'll give it a twist, and pull it out and away. Just a quick inspection of things as we continue on the removal process along the top of the fan. Just pull it right out of place. Now as we start looking down in this area, we can tell that the coolant reservoir bottle does actually have an area that this clips into, so I'm still pulling straight upward and it slides right out of there. Now I'm just going to take this hose and I'm bringing it out and behind the wiring. It doesn't need to be there. We'll set that aside. Now at this point, you should be able to take hold of the coolant reservoir. We're going to carefully push the upper portion straight rearward, just enough that it unlocks it, and then we're going to carefully lift the entire thing up and out of here. Keep in mind, there's typically still coolant inside of this. There we are. Just attempting to pull this up and out of the fan assembly. Bring that hose underneath the coolant hose. A quick inspection will set it aside. Now with that coolant reservoir out of position, let's focus on the fan itself. The fan assembly will have a couple electrical connectors that we have to dislodge, so I'm starting along the passenger side with a small pocket screwdriver. Looking at this connector, we can see that we do have a red lock. I'm sliding it away. Now there's actually a secondary lock just underneath where that red lock was. You have to press that in so we can slide this out of place. Of course, a thorough inspection for corrosion. If you see any, it needs to be taken care of. We have a mounting point here in the center of the fan. We'll pry that out of place. I'm using a trim tool. Now, if this plastic tab did happen to break on you, that's okay. You can use a wire tie during the installation process. Let's continue on a little further here. We have another one of those plastic mounting points here. That one did break, as I mentioned. It's not a big deal. Not worried about it. Let's make our way down to the connector. This connector is just like the other. We have one red locking tab and then a squeezable tab just under it. Here we are. That connector looks good as well. Let's set this wiring harness aside. Now as we move along towards either side of the fan assembly or radiator, you're going to find that you have two hooked areas, two for each side. Now down along the bottom, it's really just a resting point. Up along the top, it's a resting point, but it also has a locking tab just above the fan. You have to press in on the locking tab towards the radiator and carefully lift up on the fan. Now as you start lifting this up, of course you will have to do the same thing on the opposite side. Once you have both sides broken free, we'll lift this up and out of here. There we go. There it is, friend. Now before we get ready to install our cooling fan, let's pay attention to the radiator. Now along each side of the radiator, as you remember during the removal process, I mentioned that there's two small hooks. We need to make sure that we clean each one of the four hooks, two for each side of the radiator. After a quick wipe with a rag, we just want to make sure nothing's damaged to the point it won't hold the fan in position. Let's make our way all the way down to the bottom. And of course, repeat the process on the other side of the radiator. Okay, let's prepare to install our fan assembly. We're going to carefully get this in place. Along the inboard side of the radiator, we have those four small hooks that this rests into. Now before I press this all the way down, let's just make sure we're properly aligned on each side of the radiator and cooling fan. Yep, this is aligned. Let's press it in, listen for an audible click. You can hear it from both sides. Now along each side of the fan assembly, I'm just going to give it a light tug, confirming it is secured. Now that we have that properly secured, let's continue on to our electrical wiring harnesses. I like to start with my first connector. We're going to line this up close to the center of the fan. Press that in, audible click. Now we're going to make sure it's locked in with our red locking tab. Double check to make sure that's secured in place. Now speaking of secured, as you remember during the removal process, it does have some push clips holding it in position. One of ours is damaged, so I'm replacing it with a wire tie, just as I mentioned. As we continue over towards the passenger side, we have our next mounting point. We can use a wire tie there as well if necessary. And our last electrical connector. Audible click, light tug, lock it down. Now let's prepare to install our coolant reservoir. Now looking at the side, which would be considered the forward side closest to our fan, you can tell that we do have 3 locating tabs. Those will have to fit into their corresponding ports on the cooling fan assembly itself. Now as far as bringing this down, we're going to take the fan assembly wiring harness, pull it towards the fan, and we'll take the coolant hose and slide it away from the fan. Essentially, we're going in between this area. Now this is where I have to align all 3 of those mounting tabs with their corresponding ports, so I'm lifting it up as high as possible, pressing it towards the fan, and then I'm going to press it down. After an audible click, I want to make sure it is secured, especially down along the bottom where it might not be properly in place. This feels good. Now we have that coolant tube. The coolant tube will go underneath the wiring harness here. Along the top of the coolant reservoir, we have the area for that tube to slide down into. I'm just pressing it in by hand. Let's make our way across the top of the fan, heading towards the radiator cap on the passenger side. Let's take this slack with us. I'm just going to push that back in. Let's take this in. We'll slide it right onto that radiator. Go ahead and give that a tug. It should not fall out of place. Okay, friend, we finished the installation of our electronic cooling fan. Now the next thing you have to do is start the vehicle and let it run. Once it gets up to normal operating temperature, the cooling fan should turn on at that point. After that, you can go ahead and close the hood and take your vehicle for a road test. Thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.